All right. We are live.
We are live.
We
I wonder
are.
if anybody's up. How is it in Toronto right now? Like in Vancouver, it's like sunny and clear, so there's probably nobody on YouTube.
It is beautiful today. It is 16 degrees in Toronto. And we were walking around like not in a t-shirt, but like this is the nicest it's ever been. But it's just a trick. It's a trick day because it's going back to like -2 tonight.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
man. That ain't cool.
So what's it like?
So what's going on out there? Are you guys seeing the shift in the market like we are?
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's I think a lot of people thought maybe that like the Bank of Canada announcement caused this, but this was
Yeah.
3 weeks in the works at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's gone back to a point where like the good properties are selling, the crappy stuff is sitting, and 50% of offer dates are still working, but
Yeah.
not all of them. What about for you guys?
Well, yeah, offer dates are gonna go quickly. I think they're going to be out of the way really soon. We're just coming across where we're waiting for that cooling off period, the mandatory rescission period, to be announced by the government. They announced that they were going to do it,
Right?
but now we're waiting for them to announce the implementation, and the market's slowing down. So what I think is going to happen is the market's going to slow down. They're going to implement it, and then they're going to be like, see, within 2 days, it cooled down the market. And it's like, that was already happening, right? So they're going to take credit for it. But what are you going to do?
Do you know how long it's going to be? Have they said anything?
They have said nothing. I'm releasing a video on Monday or Wednesday, I can't remember, about the BCREA's, I guess, answer to it or what they are proposing. And basically, there's been nothing. There's been nothing at all. It's just, hey, we're doing this. We have no idea how to implement it or if it's legal, but it's coming in anyway. And then we'll see what's happening. Is there anybody watching? Maybe we should see if anybody's got any questions.
We got 10 people in so far. We didn't tell anybody we were going live, so if you're here, I appreciate you guys jumping on. By the way, so for anyone that doesn't know, this fellow here with me is named Steve. He sells real estate out in Surrey, BC, which is like what, half an hour from Vancouver?
Yeah, we're about 30 minutes out.
30 minutes out from Vancouver. Steve also has an awesome YouTube channel. He just passed me in subscribers, so I no longer like him.
And you didn't like me in the first place.
Tom, who's your guest and what city is he in? So you'll hear shortly because I think the stream's slightly behind the comments. Steve, can you put your channel in the comments actually, just so anybody that's watching sure. Can find you as well? And actually, you know what's interesting? So like me and Steve have both been kind of active on YouTube for the last year and a half in terms of being consistent with it. And our videos typically got like similar amounts of views. And then what happened last week, Steve?
I put something out there and it was just an opinion on kind of a shock piece, a news article that I didn't really agree with. And I thought it was a little clickbait. And it turns out that it was clickbait because the video I did on that article went a little crazy. So I want to say, yeah, my subscription base was like 2,000 people last week. And this week it's at 4,200. So it really kind of got out there to a lot of people. Yeah.
Doubled. That's crazy. And what was the video on?
It was just on basically the fact that a lot of people are scared and worried about their financial situation if interest rates go up. And I'm of the opinion that they should be scared of their financial position because interest rates are too low, right? Yeah. That's what's driving inflation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not being an economist or anything like that, I think that that's actually the biggest part of the issue. And I wish now looking back that they had maybe increased interest rates in October and then January again and did the quarter point, because it is running away. It is getting crazy. But luckily now we're seeing in the market in most of BC, rural kind of BC or outside is changing. Not yet. They're still catching up. So they're kind of riding the wave out from the center here. But we are seeing that massive change that you are too. And I think it's just finally enough properties are coming
Yeah.
to the market. Right.
Someone posted an interesting comment on my last video where I was talking about, the interest rates going up and how, 0.25% rate hike is like what, $12 for every $100,000 if you're going to get a variable mortgage, and how like really on the grand scheme of things, it's not going to change much, and even if a few more rate hikes come, because of the stress test, at least like things should be okay. But they are basically like, okay, so that's true, but gas is $1 million, food costs more, building material, like there's all these other things that have also, so like if interest rates do go up a few more times here, plus it costing $150 to fill up your truck, is that going to be an issue?
Yeah. What's your gas right now?
I haven't filled up in about a week, but I think,
Okay.
I don't know. Well, like just for like the cheap stuff or the premium stuff?
Yeah, the cheap stuff.
I haven't even looked. Probably 160 maybe.
So ours was 172 last week, and yesterday when I was driving home, it was 2.9, like $2, right? 2009. So like to me, that's just like a crazy, like almost 30-cent increase in a very short period of time.
Yeah. So someone's asking here. So they've got a 1+Den condo in Toronto, and they're thinking of selling it and getting a 2-bedroom. There's enough equity to do so. What do you think? So before I answer that, as the Toronto guy, Steve, if that was the same in your market, what would your answer be?
Always upsize when you can is my theory. And the reason for that is if you can upsize in a good market or any market at any time, you can get to the next level, which is awesome. And then you'll be in a spot, hopefully, where you don't have to sell if the market goes south. So my theory behind that is, say, for instance, you're single and you're living in a 1-bedroom. If you can get to a 2-bedroom or even a townhouse or something, you should, or whenever you can.
Yep.
Because next thing you know, you meet the love of your life, you're shacked up, you need more space, maybe there's babies. And if you have to now sell when the market does shift downwards, or if there's an 18-month dip, as we see, I think you guys saw it in 2017.
Yep.
That would be a crappy time. So if you can, upsize.
Yeah, I would think. Oh, did I cut out?
I can't see you anymore, Tom.
Hold on, I'll be back in a sec. So just to go on that, people are saying that gas is 1.85 for regular right now.
Yeah. Gas 1.84 in the comments. So anyway, back to that the upsizing thing. I always tell a story of a client of mine that was like, she was a single lady, she's going to be single forever, so she got into a 1-bed and den. It was like, this is awesome. And like after they finished moving into that 1-bedroom, all the girls that helped her went to the pub that night, and she met the man she married less than a year later.
I think too, just like, yeah. So if it were me, I don't know if you're living there, if you're renting it out, but if you're living there, if you can afford to do it and it makes sense, I would get a 2-bed, because also if you look into the future, and then if you can keep that 2-bedroom before you trade up to the next property, I just find that the ROI in getting the right rent for that property is pretty good, because the 2 separate bedrooms, you can have 2 roommates that $1,400 each isn't that much for each of them, and then combined you get good rent. But 1+Den, you're limiting the people that can rent it, and hopefully you're getting a couple. So yeah, I would do it if it's your own space. But if you can afford, by the way, it's just one more thing on that. If you can afford to sell the 1+Den and get something freehold, I would recommend that more than jumping to a 2-bedroom. So it all depends on the situation.
So explain to me, Tom, explain to me there, because I have actually somebody that's reached out via YouTube that's coming this way from there.
Yeah.
And they're looking to get what I'm assuming what you guys call a semi, or some sort of attached non-stratified property. And we don't have that here.
Mm.
So you can get to a property that is attached, but there's no maintenance fee where you are?
Yeah. So we have, like, I mean, where I am currently, we have attached like row houses, basically. So I'm the middle of probably like, I don't know, 8 8 row houses, and they're freehold. So there's no fees associated. Yeah.
So there's no like yard is your job.
Yep.
Roof. Okay, so what happens here? Roof leaks neighbor's side into your unit.
I mean, I guess it would be the same conversation with if you own just a semi-detached house, right? Or what you guys call duplexes.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, it's had a graph showing that every time gas is increased by 50% in Canada, which it has, we've entered a recession. Yeah, that's interesting.
Really? Huh. 39. So somebody, it was $3.99. I'm assuming that's for a gallon. So that maybe that's somebody from the States.
Oh, you know what? That yeah.
$3.99.
So by the way, natural state agent, I saw you comment on my video about interest rates, and because Steve, I was talking about like how rates went from 0.25 to 0.50 Bank of Canada, and they're like, wait, are you saying that interest rates in Canada are under 1%? And so no, I'm just talking about the overnight lending rate, but right now, I don't know, variables probably like 1.5 to 1.75, and then fixed are creeping towards 3%. Like and over, if you're over $1 million, like it's over 3%.
Well, that's the other part that was kind of crazy about this. So interest rates are going up on the exact same day. Interest rates are going up. Bonds started doing different things, and I don't understand how all that works.
Right.
But then 5-year fixed started going down.
Yeah, I know.
So we're saying finally they're raising interest rates, and then everybody's applying for their 5-year fixed rate, and then it's going down. Right. So it's so backwards, and it's so hard if you're not in the business to understand what's going in what direction. All of a sudden here we're all gas comments on a couple of real estate agents talking about gas prices.
Yeah, gas is like the number one thing to talk about right now, right? Like,
yeah, crazy.
Real estate and gas. That's what Canadians spend their free time chatting about.
So where do you think you're going to see such a slowdown in the market right now, Tom, that you're going to get to a spot where you actually get into a balanced market, or do you think you're just going to be on the other side of it? And your camera's gone again.
My camera's decided that it's not playing ball, so let me just turn it on one more time.
I mean, from what we're seeing here is there's no signs that we're actually going to get into the 5 or 6 months of supply. I just don't see it sliding hard in the other direction yet. But then buyers are starting to, once we hit to 3 to 4 months of supply, they're starting to pretend like we're in 8 months supply.
Yeah, right. It's because we've been so used to insanity in both of our markets that even though I'm seeing the shift happen now where showings are cut in half and we're not getting as many offers on properties and things like that, still there's a month of supply. Like if you run the numbers right now, there's still a month of inventory, which is like an extreme seller's market. And if we just tripled in the next month, I think everyone would be like, oh my God, the market's crashing. It's going crazy. No, we've just gone from like insane to regular.
Yeah.
But I think if it happens really quick, because we are so now used to the fact that like this is how it is, and if it doesn't stay exactly like this, then we think things are going crazy, but it's not.
Yeah, it's really strange too, because you'll bring a client an offer and it will be over the asking price with 2 or 3 offers, and it'll be conditional for a week, or 5 days, and then they're like, oh. And you're like, wait a minute, no, like in a regular world, this is normal, right? We should be so happy we have a over the asking price, but people have just come so accustomed to like unconditional, right? So we're sliding back, and it's going to be interesting to see. I'm trying to tell people like this is like shaving down prices a little bit from crazy high prices. This isn't like, hey, we're getting a full haircut. You're not going to spend $400,000 less on a detached than you did last month.
No,
right?
No. So someone's asking here, even with family help, maxing out your mortgage for income ceiling, getting very hard to afford condos in the GTA. How do you think most people will afford condos as prices keep going up? So, one of the things that I've looked at a lot is like who buys condos, right? I think you have 3 or 4 segments. You have the first time home buyer at the lower level of the condo prices. You have your typical downsizer, which is selling their house and then moving into a bigger, older floor plan condo. My camera is not agreeing with me right now. I'm just gonna keep going before I turn it back on, and
Yeah.
then you have the luxury market and you have investors. But to answer the question of how can you get in if prices keep going right now, I have bought several properties in partnerships with other people to leverage my position to get in because it put me way further ahead from where I would have been if I tried to save on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do people get in? What I like everybody is starting to say or always says, who's affording these houses? Right? Well, people are affording the houses. People are affording the condos. They're getting into stuff, right? So to think that nobody can afford houses, well, then there would be no sales and prices would come down. So people are affording those houses.
Yep.
The thing that I like where we are, we're in the burbs, right? So most of my clients are blue collar workers, mechanics, plumbers, some people that are in banking and stuff, but not really high end executives. And a lot of those people are leaving town or just not moving, right? They're just staying put. They're making it work, where the family that would have moved to the detached house is making the 3-bedroom townhouse just work longer.
Yeah.
But particularly here in my market, I've noticed a massive influx of very well paid work from home IT people that I had never experienced in my market before. Right. Yep. Most of them are not born in Canada, but have moved to Canada and have immigrated. So they're actually citizens and that sort of thing. And it's really a changing. And I think that any big, like in Toronto, you guys have always you've always been a big city for a long, long time. We're just graduating in the last 20 years in Vancouver to a big city. When I was growing up in school, it was always Toronto, Montreal, then Vancouver. It's not that anymore. Right. Yeah. Toronto and Vancouver are tied kind of pretty close to the top. And then Montreal's after Calgary now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like it's growing up bigger and people don't realize how expensive properties can be in very, very big cities. And we've gone from this little fishing village to like this big international city.
South Burlington, convert to a legal duplex or keep interest in a single family home. Yeah, I mean, like if you can house hack and rent it out, so it's actually more normal where you are, Steve. Like pretty much every basement, every house you buy in Surrey has at least a downstairs basement that you can rent out, like a separate entrance.
Most houses do now, yes, but the older homes that weren't built in that style don't. So I would suggest it's probably expected, and probably 60 or more % of the detached homes have a secondary suite for income. Yeah,
which we certainly don't in Toronto. We have a lot of basements that are not retrofit, not probably legal, that are renting out. But yeah, to have
they're not legal here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah, to have a legal duplex or keep it as a single family home, like it depends on what you need from it. If you're not using the whole house, I would, of course, make a legal duplex. You can rent out for more. Someone is selling in June, moving to college for retirement, want to buy a condo in Durham in 2023. Thoughts on that? Because there's not a lot of availability. Yeah, I mean, like a condo development is spreading everywhere now. There was a project in Hamilton that had like 2,000 worksheets for like 110 one-bedroom units. So it's going a little bit crazy. I think it's just a matter of time. If you're looking for pre-con advice outside Toronto, I would check out Jordan at Pre-Condo. He's probably the guy that would have the answer for that more than me in terms of Durham, because I could tell you Toronto condo stuff, but Durham's a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. Thoughts on Hamilton condo market, Ancaster, specifically thoughts on downtown Hamilton. So Hamilton's one of those cities basically that has gone absolutely crazy in the last 2 years. We had a client that sold her Liberty Village condo for, I don't know, 600 and something early 2020, bought a 4-bedroom house in Hamilton for 700,000 a few months later. And that same house today, comparables are selling for 1.2. So it's gone crazy. So when that happens, it's like the only reason people love condos in Toronto, for the most part, it's because that's what they can afford. Because houses are so much more expensive. And in other markets, that wasn't the case before. You could afford to buy a house. Now, with house prices going like this, it's just a matter of time until more condos are coming in to these different areas outside the core, because people can't afford single family homes anymore. Are you finding that in your market too, Steve?
I actually just had a question. I don't want to lose it here real quick. Are you seeing what we're seeing, which is like, so Chilliwack and Abbotsford's like an hour outside of the main city of Vancouver, right?
Yep.
When I was doing the numbers on Chilliwack, and I mean, I assume that's similar to Hamilton, even though Hamilton's a little bit, a bigger town. Are you seeing like Hamilton's up like 50%, but Toronto is a much lower number? Because I want to say when I did the numbers, I looked from Chilliwack to West Van. Chilliwack's up 50%. Mission is up 50%. West Van is down 8% year over year. The city of Vancouver is only up 2% year over year. So like these affordable pockets that are way far out are seeing so much more growth than anything in town. And I actually think that that's poised to maybe start reverse if we ever get back to normal, right?
You know what's interesting? So there was a chart, and it looked at January 2020 average sale price, and then January 2022 average sale price, just comparing them. And I think Whitby was up 71% in average price. There was Clarington was up like 90 something percent in 2 years. Like what typically takes a decade happened in 2 years. But it's because their prices started. I've disappeared again. Their prices started at at 500. Now they're at $1 million.
Yeah.
But Toronto was only up 36% during the last 2 years. And I say only because you can't see me with quotations. I'll be back in a sec. But like, so that's basically what's happening. What you just said, right?
My understanding of maybe why that was or why that is happening that way. Yeah, I mean, one is for sure affordability, but I think that is the stat to me that leads me to think that it's a lot more investor driven, because the investors aren't going to buy in West Vancouver where the average house price is $5.5 million.
Sure.
Right. They're just not going to buy there. But an investor will buy in, Chilliwack, where the average house price for a detached home was 500 grand. And now it's whatever, $1 million, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's a good chance that that's where the investment's going. Now, investment right now in my market anyway is the thing that they're actually putting on the chopping block, and they want to try and remove investors. And I understand the sentiment behind that.
Yeah.
However, here's the point that I want to bring when you say we're going to remove investors from the market. The government is not building purpose rental properties anymore. They stopped in the 60s, I want to say 70s maybe. So then it became more profitable when they brought in things like rent freeze and all this stuff to make it it wasn't profitable for companies to run those buildings. So then they started making condo buildings and selling them off to each individual owners. Then if you're going to now tell those owners that they can't rent it out and it has to be sold, the property has to be sold to a homeowner, that's going to bring down house prices.
Yep.
Right? It's going to bring down house prices 100%. But who's more vulnerable than the people trying to get into the market as a first-time buyer? People that are stuck being renters for the rest of their lives because they don't have the financial ability for whatever reason to ever get into a home. Not even if they just buckle down or move to a different area, they're never going to have that. So you're going to take all that rental stock, you can convert it into homeowners. Those homeowners will do better, and then the people that are most vulnerable will be in the worst position ever
because there's no rental stock.
Because there's no rental stock, and they are either going to literally be homeless, or rental prices will go through the roof for what's left.
Yeah. So Sheena, the project I was talking about was Television City. I hadn't even looked at what it was truthfully per square foot, but that's a new Hamilton condo launch that everyone is going crazy about. Like everybody wants in it. And if I had said to many people that I know, even 2.5 years ago, like, hey, we're going to buy a pre-con in Hamilton and it's going to be $1,000 plus a square foot, you would have laughed at me. But look where we are now. Steve, this question's for you. Lakefront properties or cottages with stunning mountain views in northern BC. Is that a thing? And what do they cost? Is like Whistler. What Whistler Mountain View? What is
Okay, so I think I told you this story, Tom, last time I was out, because we went to your cottage and I was like, this place is great. This is
yeah.
awesome. And we don't really have that in Vancouver. So we went to Whistler, my family, and we were cruising around on our bikes, and I was looking at some cottages on lakes and cottages with just, ski up cottages, different stuff. And I pulled up my realtor app and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like if I could Airbnb this thing, I could figure this out. And I pulled it up and I was like, this is a old, dumpy, tiny little lot, whatever.
Yeah.
I pull it up on my phone. And it's like $5.5 million. I'm like, oh, that's 4 times the house I have in town. So no, this is for the rich people. A lot of our people do end up moving into, I don't know, let's call it, Lacklahash, 100 Mile House. They really go into the sticks. They really, they go out there. And that's where most of our retirees end up. There's no work in those places. So I don't think you're going to end up with a lot of people living in those spots, because, until Elon fixes his internet issue and we can get high-speed internet, none of those people are going to be working in those areas. Tom, your camera is terrible. I don't know what keeps going on. Maybe you should switch to your FaceTime camera and we can figure this out.
Well, if I switch to the FaceTime, hold on. I think it's just going to be me now for a sec. Let me get
better than me.
Let me get Steve back in here.
How about in Hope, BC? So Hope is out there. It's affordable. If you're gonna drive that far to get to work and stuff. Here's the one thing I actually don't like about Hope personally. It's in a valley, and for many months of the year, a lot of Hope doesn't get sunlight over the edge of the mountain, and that's crazy. But for me, I wouldn't want to be there. But Okanagan now too. It's like, man, you're going to Kelowna. It is, it's expensive. It's expensive to go to Kelowna.
What's so funny is for people telling me to get a new camera. This is a new camera. But there's something going on. If anyone knows anything about Sony cameras, and how for them to not auto turn off after 10 minutes of filming, because it doesn't think it's filming, right? Because I'm not recording, it's streaming into the computer. So it's like going auto off. So I'm gonna have to watch some YouTube videos to figure that out. So he's thinking more like an Airbnb.
So I will give you my opinion on that, and maybe I actually want to have on my channel soon. I'm going to ask. I've asked her a few times. We just haven't been able to line up Kim Phillips here in my market because I know she bought an Airbnb. I don't want the work. Just not interested.
Right.
Like your cottage, Tom, you probably wouldn't ever want to Airbnb that out and get the extra income because it's just not worth the headache of it, or what?
I told myself that when I bought it, because just mathematically it made sense to have the opportunity, but I have not Airbnb'd it. I've just rented it to friends and family. So maybe at some point that changes.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't see, there's not a lot of areas. The cool part about when you're in Ontario and a lot of the other parts of the country is you can drive and it's just flat and there's just lakes and there's places to go. Vancouver, as soon as you get to Chilliwack or to Maple Ridge or whatever, it's like there's the mountains and they go to the Yukon. So
right.
There's not a lot of highway. There's not a lot of space. There's not a lot of little lakes that are easy to get to. Right?
Someone, Daryl had commented earlier from the Canadian Real Estate Show, which up till last week was called the Toronto Real Estate Show. So they've changed their name. And Steve, I noticed actually, I watched their episode with our buddy Nolan Mathias, and he made it clear to them that they should change their name, and it looks like they listened to him. So right. Interesting.
Nolan's a smart dude. Wait, is Nolan on there? Hang on.
I don't think so.
I think he just commented.
I've missed a few comments. I got to go back up and see what's going on.
You're probably seeing faster than me because I'm just seeing it on the restream.
Bloor West or Oakville detached as a primary home. Does it make sense to wait and purchase these at all.
Where's that? Where's that, Tom?
So Bloor West is like a great area, like not too far from downtown Toronto. Awesome, like very trendy, great restaurants, great vibe. Personally, I would buy in Bloor West because I don't want to live in Oakville, but I also recognize how amazing Oakville is. But yeah, I would be a. Oh, there's Nolan. Now he's here. I had a feeling. But the setting menu is your friend. Yeah, I'll ask Nolan how to do the camera. He'll show me how to do it. But no, I would buy in Bloor West. That would be my opinion. But obviously, you can't go wrong with Oakville either. Someone's asking about $705,000 for a 1-bedroom in 10 York downtown. So 10 York's a great building. For these comments are making me laugh now. 10 York's a great building. It's a Tridel building. Location's amazing. The water views are insane. I don't know the square footage of that one you're asking about, but it's a solid building. I would probably I would invest in that building. I'd have no issues with it. Jordan's asked me what I think of 36 Lisgar. My opinion still is that there's better buildings to buy in Toronto. I've heard that they've made changes, and they are coming a long way from where they were, but still, I wouldn't put my money there personally.
Hey, I actually, that reminds me, this week, hopefully I'll get it out. I have a video on a building here in Surrey. It's amazing how they can actually change, right? How things can actually change from good to bad, and the other way. So it's interesting if you have like a strata that's proactive and there's issues, or there's a neighborhood that is changing, like that stuff is legit. And we're starting to see it now in Surrey, because there's like, they have done the development in Surrey in the worst spot of Surrey.
Right.
And now we're starting to see that change. And it's coming around. It's like a different world. I used to ride my bike. I sound like a geezer now. I used to ride my bike there when I was a little kid. But now it's like, I went down there the other day and I was like, man, this is nice. This feels like the city now. It's crazy. Hey, we're getting bad comments now.
That's all right. Jordan, if you wouldn't mind in the comments also letting us know every pre-con project that you think will be canceled this year. I'd love to know your opinion. I think everyone agrees with me. 36 Lisgar is to investors as Tom's camera is to YouTube. Okay, these are good. They're good. I appreciate it.
The internet usually wins, Tom. The internet
wins. Always wins. I just want to
see one. Hang on, Surrey or Vancouver? Better investment area. If you can afford Vancouver, I actually think there's some good deals there right now. Surrey, if you want to buy into Surrey, my recommendation right now is city center. And I never thought I would say that, but you have to be on a 10 to 15 year holding plan, because that area is going to change. If you know the area in Surrey, stay away from Gateway Station, go to King George Station.
So why is that? Tell me that as someone that knows nothing about Surrey.
There's a little, do you mind if I get a little not PC? I'll just say it the way I should try and say it. There's a little bit more crack around.
Okay. Just a sketchier area.
No, basically. It's there's a sketchy area, and they haven't really made attempts to clean that particular area up. But the new area around King George Station and everything is it's awesome. I've totally converted now. Totally converted.
Someone's asking about is it normal for resale condo prices to be on par or higher than resale? Not in my experience. Typically, pre-construction is significantly more expensive than the resale condos. There's obviously like outliers with every situation where there might be a project or a building in an area that is more expensive than the new stuff, but I don't typically see that. And then to answer the question about 10 York, 639 square feet for 705 actually makes a lot of sense. That sounds cheap to me for that building. I wonder if the 705 is just strictly a marketing price, or if that is the actual price that they are looking for. Never date a girl from Surrey is a comment we got, Steve. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll let my wife know.
See, now Jordan's not answering my questions. Preferred area in King West, east or west of Spadina from Harlan? Steve, do you know anything about King West in Toronto?
No.
Do you
Did you
remember the
drink there
condo?
last time I was there?
Yeah, that's where my condo was the first time you came.
Okay.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good area. Harlan, to answer the question, I don't actually think it matters. It's just getting a building that has a wow factor, and that means great floor plan, boutique style. And I talked about this when I did the video with Jordan. Was like in 2020 when condos frankly sucked. Only 20% of them were selling every month. It was like every week I was calling sellers with bad news, being like, "Your neighbor just sold for this. What do you want to do?" My only condos that were moving quickly were the ones that had something unique. And it's like if it doesn't have something unique, then it's going to sit on the market. And that's why this cookie cutter stuff in a lot of different communities of Toronto, even though they're selling crazy now, if condos ever slowed down, they're the first ones to sit on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing? What are condos doing in Surrey right now?
Oh man, they went crazy. They're probably still our best market just because they're most affordable. The houses are slowing. Townhouses are still doing good, but everything's going to slow over the next little bit, right? The underpricing game has to stop.
Yep.
Right, just has to stop. I don't want to dime you out to where you are in Toronto, Tom, but last time I was there, man, that neighborhood was awesome.
Yeah.
Like we were walking to everything, right? Like we were going to restaurants and going to the Leafs game and stuff, and it was all like walking distance. That was killer.
Yeah, that's it's being whether you're just east or just west of Yonge Street, like the core is you Uber or you walk to everything, which is awesome.
Do you guys ever go to the beach? Like you got water right there. Is there a beach to go to, or what do
We've
you do?
got like we have the beaches, which is just east, which is like in like Ashbridges Bay is a great beach to go to. It's a great area. But if you're talking about like core Toronto, like we've got like Cherry Beach and a few little areas. You probably don't want to jump in Lake Ontario right there. Probably wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, it's all right. Bought a 700 square foot 1+10 2 bath with parking locker at 10 Capriel in early December. Not gonna lie, I'm nervous. If you got it for the right price, it's already worth more than what you paid for it. In terms of where the condos are at right now. I just want to jump up here quick. Someone had asked about Morningside area in Scarborough, a 2+10 2 bath for $650. I would have to take a look at the actual listing to give you my full perspective on it. But what's interesting is I've got clients right now that want to buy, like several people actually that want to buy houses, and they're all sending me listings in Scarborough. And that wasn't happening before. It was like, okay, Tom, I live in a condo. I want to sell it. And if I'm going west, I want Junction, Roncesvalles, maybe High Park if they have a good budget, Parkdale. And then if they're going east, it's like, okay, I want Danforth, I want Beaches, I want Leslieville, I want Riverdale, maybe East York. But now it's pushing further and further out. So yeah, I think that area, and maybe Jordan, if you're still on, you can tell me like pre-con stuff moving forward. It's got to go east, right? Because that's where the land is. And as that keeps building up, Scarborough is going to be a lot different probably in 10 years than it is today. Steve, if there's one area in your market that you think in 10 years from now we're going to look back and go like, we saw that coming. This is the trendy place now. What is that area?
Trendy place. Well, I mean, here's the issue I think that we have where I am is I'm in the burbs.
Yeah.
Everybody here is not trendy restaurants. We're like, how close are you to the soccer field to get the kids there, right? So that's like Surrey is a desert for like things to do. So you got to go into town. But if I had to guess, just the area in South Surrey, around 24th Avenue and stuff, there was so much good investment there by the previous mayor. It's all stopped now, unfortunately, but that's going to be a cool spot. But the congestion for me getting in and out of that area is why I don't live there.
Right.
It's just line up your cars to try and get onto the freeway out of town. But that's, I guess, where the restaurants and all the trendiness and And even the nice new high schools they're building and new community pools they're building and all that stuff, it's down in South Surrey, not White Rock, South Surrey.
Best area to buy a condo in Toronto for appreciation. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard to argue with the transportation side of things. Like if you're close to the subway line, I think appreciation wise, it's going to be great. There's other areas that are cheaper to get now that will probably do well. But again, like if the condo market ever slows down, I want to be in areas that are established. And so it's interesting, right? It's like if you look at certain areas of Toronto where they tried to build these like master plan communities, City Place is a good example. Liberty Village is another good example for what's going on at Park Lawn and Lakeshore, for what they're building out there in Humber Bay. They just kind of like threw all these condos there. I personally, if I'm buying condos, I want to buy in an area that was already established, and then they started plopping condos into it, if that makes sense. So it's like I own condos in King West. I own properties in Distillery District and St. Lawrence Market area because those areas were established, and then condos started kind of coming in and making sense for the neighborhood, where these other neighborhoods were just like, I think City Place was like a golf range for like many years before they started building that. So it takes a lot more time for those areas. So if it's me, I'm buying in areas that are already established because I know exactly what I'm getting. And if you're buying to rent out, you get different quality of renters for different areas, and sometimes it's actually worth paying more for something that's different and a bit more expensive because you get a tenant that doesn't cause you any issues, basically. Thoughts on that, Steve?
Keep going.
Okay.
No, I mean, we've seen it here too. Like, there's a lot of people that have, like, North Langley, there's this development, Yorkson. It's kind of the whole top end, and I've told people to avoid it.
Yeah.
Forever. I mean, they got really nice condos there, but it's just built around nothing. They're just tearing out acreages and they're just putting in condos and they're putting in townhouses, and it's good. And again, it's family, that type of spot, but it's built around nothing. There's no shopping. You got to drive 20 minutes or not 20 minutes, it's an exaggeration, but there's no corner stores, right? There's nothing to do there. It's coming. The athletic parks and stuff are coming, and the family friendly stuff is coming, but I too want to be around something.
Yeah.
Right. I want to be around anything. And that's actually the cool why I mentioned King George Station is King George Station's the coolest, tightest spot towards the hospital, and the hospital in Surrey is getting crazy big. So that's again why I think it's just going to all be healthcare workers and commuters in the future, and it's going to be awesome.
All right, I'm going to kind of jump through a few questions here. So thoughts on Liberty Village, specifically 65 to 85 East Liberty. So obviously that's the cluster of the three buildings where you got a ton of units. Resale's been good in there. I would say, like myself personally, I like buying buildings that are just like one building that aren't like the huge ones.
Are those buildings all the same?
Different
like
condo corps, different condo
okay.
corps, but basically attached, like built phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Yeah.
So those buildings are fine. But I would probably, if I'm going to buy in Liberty Village, they wouldn't be my first choice, but there's nothing wrong with them. Would you wait to sell a condo / buy a house a couple more months or see how things pan out? I actually would, because I think when the market slows down a bit, it's going to hit houses more. And I think condos will continue to go well for the next little bit, strictly just based on affordability. But it depends on what condo you have. Like if your condo is worth under $800,000, I actually think you'll do better by waiting a few months, buying the house when hopefully things are a bit calmer in the summer, and then selling the condo because condos are going to still do pretty well.
Mm-hmm. I always, whenever somebody says, well, should we wait and see what happens? I always say, well, what is wait and see? Like, I know there's a bunch of, bubble bursters that follow my channel quite continuously. And it's like, well, this isn't going to end well. Well, what does the end mean? Right. Do you think there's an end date? The market stops at a certain date and whoever owns the right amount of property wins? Like, it doesn't work that way. Right. So it's never going to end. So you have to look at like wait and see. Well, then if you're going to wait and see, you have to define what wait and see means. So you can go, okay, now I know whether or not I want to, because you can always wait and see.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
I am of the mindset, if you're selling right now, you got to try and get sold as fast as possible, because I think there's going to be great opportunity by summer.
Yep, I agree. So 58 footage bungalow, Willowdale, North York, custom homes going up all around. Yeah, not surprising. Sell or keep Tom, bought in 2016. So if you bought in 2016, obviously you're way up in terms of potential equity value if you were to sell it. I think the answer really depends on like, I personally don't like selling real estate unless the proceeds are going directly into another piece of real estate. So if you're going to sell it and the money's going to sit in your bank, don't. Hang tight.
Yeah. Or refinance.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe refine's
the money out, refinance. That money's tax free. Well, not tax free.
Yep.
It's coming, but you know what
I mean.
I got one here, Tom, asking me to comment on the BCREA white paper. I kind of mentioned a little bit of that earlier. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna plug my channel because
so tell me what that means. What does that mean?
So the cooling off period, the mandatory rescission period that the BC government's bringing in through our regulating body, who is our new regulating body, has suggested that they've just said, we're doing this. We're bringing in a rescission period, and it will now be illegal for you as a seller of your property to accept an offer that's unconditional. And the BCREA put out their response this week, basically. So the BCREA did a study, I guess, a white paper, whatever you call a white paper. And they made their own recommendations of what it should be or what would help and how this will help. So the basic thought, and I'll tell you the negative side of it, is if you have a rescission period, it's meant to protect the buyer in case they decide they want to back out later. And we have that in pre-sales. So you can walk into a pre-sale center, you can sign a contract, you can give them a $5,000 deposit, and then you have 7 days to back out or not, right?
Yep.
They want to bring that in. Now, why is that bad for the resale market? Because the resale market means you are selling your property and not a developer who is savvy and has big backing, right? So what we are inevitably going to see is frivolous offers and all sorts of other stuff. But I don't want to bore everybody here with that because it's a BC topic. But I will say, watch my channel this week. I have all of my thoughts and a breakdown on the announcement and also the BCREA's response coming out, I think maybe Monday. I'm not sure.
Well, also, for anybody watching that lives in, I guess Ontario in general, like we just copy what BC does in our real estate legislations. We just wait either 6 months or 2 years later, right? So we're going to watch how it plays out in BC. And then if it's working effectively, we're just going to copy it, right? So at some point, it's going to come here. Alex was asking about 20 Thomas Riley. That's KIP district. I think the resale stuff in there is still selling under 1,000, depending on the unit per square foot. So I like that building a lot. I think that area's got a lot of room for growth. I keep looking at like areas that in the future we're going to look back and go like, oh, yeah, that makes sense why now there's a lot of demand for it. And I think that's one of those areas where we're going to see a lot more stuff go up as well. Would you rather buy a 1,500 square foot condo all inside or with 1,000 square feet and 500 square feet of terrace? So that's interesting. What I like to remind people of in Toronto is that we live in Toronto and it is really cold for like 8 months of the year. So terraces are great. There's no way to put an exact value on it. If it were me, like I don't need 1,500 square feet. So to have 1,000 square feet and a 500 square foot terrace would be awesome. That's probably what I would go for. But it depends on who the buyer is and what they value that terrace at. Because it's easy for condos, right? Because you go, okay, price per square foot. Does it have parking? Does it have locker? What level is it on? What upgrades did they do? And you can kind of come to at least make sense on paper of the value. But what's great, I guess, with terraces is your maintenance fees would be a lot lower because you don't pay maintenance on your terrace. It's common element, but you have exclusive use.
Yeah.
Are terraces a big thing in BC because it's a little bit warmer?
Our downsizers always try and look for the outside space, right? We don't have many, if any, 1,500 square foot apartments. We got a lot of 1,000. But if you can see that space, I mean, I could see value in it. I would for sure always buy the bigger living space unit if they were the same price.
You would buy the
right?
bigger living space.
I
Okay.
would buy the bigger living space unit because that would make
So
a ton more sense. Tom, I'm going to plug you for a sec here. I
yeah.
see we have 61 people watching and only 13 likes. So
Uh-oh.
if you like Tom, you better hit the like button. Anyway,
And
maybe
if
it'll
you
get out to a
don't,
few more
if you
people.
don't like us, if you hit dislike twice,
Yeah, that works.
also works. Yeah. Okay. VMC, so Vaughan Metropolitan Center for condos. I'll be honest, Pamela, like I don't do a lot of condo business in Vaughan, so I don't really have an opinion on it. But if I just see for what's happening out there and what the prices are, and it's not surprising that transportation wise, what will eventually happen out there is going to be good long term. But with any of these new projects, I think you have to have a 10-year horizon, because especially if you're buying pre-con or a newly built building, you are paying a premium. Let me take a look here. So looking for some advice. I think my post will be a little long, so I'll do it in two parts. My partner and I finished university about 1.5 years ago and are fortunate to have a household income of $300,000. That's actually very, very impressive. Congratulations. Yeah, seriously. We are interested in purchasing our first condo in Toronto about from 1.2 to 1.4 mark. Do not have enough for the 20% down payment yet. Would you recommend, oh, sorry, the comments are moving on me. Would you recommend we purchase something we can currently afford and see how the market, or wait? Well, so it's going to depend on how long will it take you to get to what the down payment is that you need. Over the last decade, condos have gone up almost 10% a year, and I don't think that's going to always happen. But even if they, like, be conservative, right? Go like, okay, that 1.2 to 1.4 condo that you want, let's say we're super conservative and condos go up 3% for the rest of the year and then 5% next year. Just the math on that, the advice I give is buy what you can afford now, because you're not leveraging the market. And it's very hard to save at the same rate the market's moving if you're not already in. But Steve, thoughts on that?
Saving 20% down to avoid CMHC is what your parents said to do. Don't do it anymore. That's when houses, when you could maybe save at that rate. Anybody I know, and I know lots, that are saying I'm saving up the 20%, they are so far behind the 8 ball now, they're hooped. The $7,000 or $8,000, or I think if it's 5% down on a high end, it's like 15,000 CMHC fee is nothing.
Right.
It's nothing. Get in the market. Time in the market beats timing the market every single time. Be in the market, stay in the market.
Yep.
Stop trying to time things and think you're smart.
Yep. And the truth is too, right? Like even us, like we do this every day, and frankly are probably a little bit like overly obsessed about it, not in a good way, right? I don't know what's going to happen. The economists that are way smarter than me and Steve, like, let's be clear, they're wrong.
Hey, hang on, Tom. I think you just lost 1,000 subscribers. Right now. No.
They're wrong most of the time. So buy and hold. What do you recommend buying a small condo and then keeping it and using the equity to build the real estate portfolio to move up? So John, that's what I did. Like I bought my first condo in 2015 for $360,000. I was lucky that the condo market did really well that next year, and I refinanced it right away and basically took 100 grand out, and that helped me buy my next one, which would have never been possible if I didn't do it. So I'm not guaranteeing that happens again, because who knows. But if you can afford to buy it now and get into the market, 1-bedroom condos will always be, other than maybe bachelors, right? But at least they're reasonable square footage, are always the most in demand. Like if you look at condo sales right now in Toronto, 72% of sales are happening under 800,000, and most are happening between 600 and 700,000. And that's what a 1-bedroom condo is. Steve, how did your real estate journey start? Did you start with a condo, or could you afford to buy a house first?
Yeah, so everybody thinks they're going to hold on. I want that rentable condo because we got such terrible rental restrictions here. I'm going to rent that thing out, so I have to buy one that's rentable because I'm going to keep it and move on. Never happens. Never happens. Not in my marketplace where most of my people are making realistic incomes, right? So you have to take the steps. So I was like 800 square foot, 2-bedroom condo when I bought in. Then I moved to the townhouse 4 years later. Then I moved to the detached house 4 years later. Now we've been here. Then since I've been in this house, I'm trying to think. Maybe I bought a condo. I did buy an investment property as a partnership. I'm trying to remember if I bought that when I had the townhouse. Anyway, so I had that place. Now, I will say, when you have the chance to get out of a partnership on a high, I think you should take it, because that way you're not worried about getting out. So we did actually get out of that since I've been here. And then we bought a new condo as well. So I think you should do this if you can. Get as close to the detached market as you can in my market here. And then once you're living in that property, if you can get it, put in the basement suite, get the income coming out, and then get to your rental property. So I did climb the ladder.
Yeah.
And then go back in on the lower end. And I was thinking about cashing out of mine because the value's gone up $250,000 in a year since I've owned it. And then my wife just said to me, well, wouldn't we just buy a new one then? And I'm like, well, yeah, so we might as well just hold on to the one we got.
I think there might also be, like, I've kept most of my condos. I did sell one, but I think there's also an expiry date on a condo at some point, right? Like, the goal is always to get to freehold because land is where the value's at. But at some point, like, I think the sweet spot for Toronto condos is between 5 and 12 years old. That's what I would personally go after, because you know exactly what you're getting. Once it's 20 years old, 25 years old, 30 years old, the maintenance fees just keep going up. So I think at some point it actually makes sense to cash out of the condo. And then if you can use that same money to get something freehold, that's what I would do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just getting accosted by a 4-year-old here. So hang on.
Okay. We'll
push her out of the screen.
We'll try to wrap up here in a few minutes. And I appreciate everyone for being here. Let me just see a few more.
I'd be interested if there's any comments about, like, would people like to see this stuff on a more regular basis? Because Tom and I were talking about maybe trying to share this both on both of our channels at the same time, and maybe do it once every few weeks or once a month, or who knows.
I'm going to quickly run through questions here, just so I can make sure I get to everybody. How easy are parking rentals downtown? I can only afford non-parking units. It depends on the building. If you're buying in a building with 200 units in it, it's going to be easy for you to find parking. If you're buying in a building with 40 units, that's super boutique, it's going to be more difficult. How do you guys feel about people who bargain to cut commission fees and give cashbacks? Is that bad taste for realtors? No, honestly, there's different models.
No comment.
I don't have any comment. I like the fact that there are options for people. And there is mere posting, which is you sell your house yourself and it's on you. There is discount, and then there's full service. And there is something for everybody. And I think that is great for the marketplace. I really do think that.
Different business models should be encouraged, right? They absolutely should be encouraged. And you should be able to have the option that you want to pay for, right? People buy high end and low end of every type of product that you can get, right? Some people will buy the iPad Pro whatever with a $400 pencil attached to it or whatever.
Sure.
And then other people will buy whatever the cheapest tablet is that gets the same job done. So I agree, there should be options for people.
How do I go from one property to two? I have $50,000 cash. Probably the $50,000 isn't enough to get a down payment on the next place. So the answer is probably, if you want to keep the first property, see how much equity is in it and see if refinancing is something that makes sense for you. Richard, where's a better area to buy for land property? Somewhere uptown, Yonge and Finch, or somewhere in the suburbs? So just based on what's happened in the suburbs in the last 2 years in terms of where the prices have gone, I think that Yonge and Finch, if you can afford to buy there, is a safer bet because prices haven't doubled. They've been more reasonable. And at some point, like, I know work from home is still a big thing, but at some point people are going to end up going back to the city for jobs. It's going to be interesting. Negative cash flow. Each of your thoughts. Steve, do your investors flow negative in Surrey Langley like they do in the GTA?
Yes.
Okay.
They do. And up until you get about 35% down, 35% down, you're going to cash flow. You're going to break even maybe at 30. So that's actually why I told people to buy one and why I bought one. Because my condo that I bought this time last year, I've owned it for exactly a year, broke even at 100% financed.
Interesting.
Broke even. Yeah. Now the strata fee has gone up since then. So there's some other stuff there. It doesn't break even anymore, but that's why I bought it. There was a very short window in time where that happened because I could get like 1.5% mortgage. But here in Vancouver, it is most common. People are feeding their condos $200 to $300 a month for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you are only going to to break even in Toronto, 35% down, I would say. The 20% and break even or cash flow days are long gone because rents are not anywhere near increasing at the rate that property prices have increased. Natasha, just to answer the why wait to sell a condo if it's worth over 800K in Toronto, all I'm saying is that you're playing in a smaller sandbox in terms of who the buyer is going to be. So I just know that most of the buyers buying condos buy them under 800,000 on the resale side of things. And if you look at percentage of sales that happen from 800 to a million, it probably represents about 10% of condo buyers. So there's just less active people looking, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get a great price. It just depends on the fact that there'll be less showings on those condos because there are less people that can afford to buy them. Hey, Steve, that 15,000 CMHC fee for the whole amortization, 25 years period, and Tom.
Yeah, it's amortized in. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Kitty Cat, great name. We'll get Jordan on here on the next one. I bought a condo just now, 1+10, 1 bath, 725 Scarborough Town Center. Not sure whether it's the correct price. I bought it for high. You know, you see, send me. I'll put my email in the chat here. It's hard to give advice on just like kind of basic information on properties. So if anyone has questions about your specific property, you can email me or Steve directly if there's anyone looking in Steve's marketplace as well, and I can give you my actual perspective when I can actually look at all the numbers. Steve, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I'm just going to drop my channel back in the chat again if anybody wants to check it out. And then maybe next time, Tom, instead of just not doing a lot on a Sunday afternoon, we should schedule this because it looks like there's a ton of people with really interesting questions, and it was kind of fun.
Tom, when can we get a drink at King West? John, send me an email. We'll set up a drink. My email's in the chat.
Give me enough time to catch a flight.
Yeah, Steve likes drinking, so he'll come too. Okay, this was fun. Thank you, everybody. I promise before next time I will figure out my camera. I'm going to call Nolan after this. He's going to tell me how to set up the Sony camera so it doesn't turn off every 5 minutes. And yeah, if you like this, let us know. And if you're watching this on replay as well and you're not just here live, let us know what's going on and if you liked it and if you want us to do more. Hope everybody has an amazing Sunday. Any final thoughts, Steve? Words of wisdom?
Nope. Have fun. I'm going to go enjoy the sunshine.